Hey.
Hey.
Oh, Kat's here as well. Good
Yes,
job. Actually, yeah, you carry on. I'm just going to plug something in. So
I'm
get
going to
set.
Kat. I'm going to make you an admin if I can. Let me see how to do this. How do I do this?
Won't you make her a co-host?
Yeah.
There she is.
Hi.
How are
Hi.
you?
How are you, lovely? It's so good to see
Hi.
you.
Yes, sweet. You look gorgeous as always. Oh, hello. She's gone sideways.
Yeah, I know. Trying to like fix it. It's like a little wonky. So sorry. Just like me.
Yeah, my whole world turned upside down.
Yeah.
Sorry
Kat,
about
I
that.
don't know. I don't know how to make you a co-host.
You are. Didn't it say something then? You are a co-host.
Where?
It was something just flashed up on my screen.
Oh no, you are a co-host.
Oh,
But
I'm a
I'm going to make
co-host.
Kat an admin so that I don't have to keep letting people in. Oh, I gotta let people in. Okay. We'll see if we can do it. Let me see. Admit all.
Wow. Ooh, lots of peoples. Ooh, there's lots of peoples.
Let me see here.
There's Joy. There's Charlie. There's Nikki. Ta-da. Julia. Michelle. Hi. And Bridget is
Oh
there.
my God, this is awesome. All right, let's see.
Michelle.
Let me-
Good
oh,
morning.
there we go. Admit, admit.
Nancy. Hi.
Oh my God,
Oh,
so many familiar faces.
I know it's so good. I should look up there, not down there. Sorry.
Yeah. Eyes up
Mhm.
here.
Eyes up. Eyes. Sorry. Very bad place then.
Oh my
Morning,
God.
ladies.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Rose.
And
Hi,
for Kathy,
Bridget.
Kathy,
Carrie.
caw, caw, caw. They didn't.
Caca.
Caca.
That's my crow call.
Caca. Indeed.
I didn't want to type that. It thought it would be misinterpreted.
Yeah, you gotta explain what that was.
Yeah, the caca. Caca, caca.
Caca.
All right.
Maybe we could have a
Need
whole
Hi,
thing on
Wendy.
vocals.
I need Kathy's healing energy. I have COVID.
Oh,
Oh
no.
Uh-oh.
no.
Yeah.
Forest you.
Oh, so well, you just keep sipping your tea, Nancy. You stay snuggly.
Ugh.
You and
Nice. Ugly indeed.
our turtlenecks.
3 days in bed.
Oh, miserable.
No,
Thank you for
okay.
being here though.
You. Oh, I got two more. Okay, just letting everybody file in, file in, file in.
Smiling quietly.
Single file.
Yeah.
Okay. As anybody that's been here before knows, I am not tech savvy. So does anyone know how to make someone else on Zoom an admin where they could be letting the people in? Because I have my friend and assistant extraordinaire on here, and I don't know how to make them an admin so they could actually let people in. So
I
nobody
need
else knows either. That's
I
cool.
need a sensible sign. But I accidentally hit the pin thumbtack button and I don't know what it's doing. It looked like I pinned myself.
I
Is
think, oh, sorry.
is it okay?
Oh, I see. Because yeah, the pin, so the pin
Do anything?
doesn't do admin stuff. It just kind of puts you at the top. So then,
Oh, okay. I don't need to be on the top, but I don't know how to unpin it.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't
no.
think I think that maybe you're pinned on your screen, but not pinned on my screen.
Oh,
You're
thank
only
you.
up there because you're talking. So it puts people who talk.
Okey-dokey. All right, no problem. I love your glasses, there, Christine. Are they new?
No, they're the same
They're
cheapo
beautiful.
people
Okay.
ones I have all over the house.
And I don't know anything about admin, so I'm like you, no techie.
All right, I'm just jumping on. Can you hear me, Christine?
Oh, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So,
Hi, Michelle.
hi. Have you got, I heard the tail end of what you were looking for. Can you just tell me and I might be able to walk you through it?
Yeah, I just wanted to make Kat an admin so that she could let people in, um, and I could not have to keep doing that.
Yep. Okay. So I think, hold on.
Because I touched the little dots next to her name and it didn't give me the option of admin.
Where
Sorry,
you see,
everybody.
where you
Everybody,
said,
this is actually a workshop on how to use Zoom. Welcome.
so when you went over the three dots, did you do that over her video screen or did you go into the participants list to do that?
No, her video screen.
Okay, can you try? I won't see the options on my end because I
Yeah.
don't have the pro version, nor am I an admin on this. But
Okay.
under the participants list,
Yeah, I'm on there.
does it give you an option?
Here
Where
she
you can
is.
mute, and then there's more. And on mine, it gives me an option to pin, rename, or edit profile picture. It might give you more options because you're the host.
Oh, so rename, what does that mean?
No, it's just going to change her display name. You don't want that. So if you pin her, then she's going to be Pitt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but
You
it's
want
not
to
going to
make,
give her her. Okay.
is there
We'll
an
figure
option there
this
to
out
give
another
her?
time because
There's
I don't
no
think
option to make her a host there.
no. No, it's the same. It gives me the same options that I get when I click the dots on her screen.
No.
So it's probably something I have to do in like on the website prior or something like that, I imagine.
Yeah, I literally, Google just said exactly what I said, which is go to the participants list, hover over the participant, click more, and click make host.
Click.
I don't know why that's not working.
Okay, well, here she is. More. And it says make host. That's an
co-host.
admin.
Or co-host, yeah.
Okay, I'll make her a co-host. And that means
Yeah, she should be able to see now the when people are coming in and click on them. Because I've just let a few couple in because I'm co-host.
okay. So Kat, let me know if you start to see people coming in and if you
Thank
can
you for
let
that.
them in.
I hear well.
So, okay. Awesome. Oh, wait, someone just is in the waiting room. Do you see that?
I do not.
Okay, I'll do it.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Kat, make sure you have your participants list open. So if you click on the menu bar on the bottom, it's got a little
Yep.
icon of people.
Yep.
Click on the actual icon, and then a list is going to show up on your right of who's in. And then as someone tries to enter, it should show up on that list.
Okay. I will monitor this list.
Sorry, who are you? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Have
Are
we
you
met?
allowed in?
Have we met?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So I have no intuition when it comes to Zoom, but let's talk about about intuition. Anybody here that doesn't know Kathy Price, Kathy Price is an amazing human who has internationally acclaimed hugs. So you're not going to be able to get those today, but if you've ever experienced one, you know. So, so what her and I have a lot of really amazing, deep conversations. So when I thought about talking about intuition, because I do come across people having, first of all, it's just a really interesting topic to talk about, right? And everybody has different experiences with intuition, different views on intuition, but also some people I have heard there's confusion around intuition because sometimes maybe the focus gets so heavy on, is it a sign? What does it mean about everything, that it makes things actually less clear as opposed to allowing intuition to help things become clearer. So Kathy and I are going to kind of break some things down and go into some cool areas, and hopefully you guys will get a lot out of this and jump in and share your own stories or questions or anything on that line. So Kathy lives in Wales. She does amazing energy work. She's spoken internationally on energy and the healing work that she does. And she has a background in science. And she works with her horses, she works with people and animals, and she is just a plethora of wisdom. So, if you want to know more about what's going on with Kathy and what she does, then we'll hit on that at the end. But I'm just so thrilled to have her here. I would have dragged her kicking and screaming, but
Thank you. I mean, that was a hell of an introduction. Quite a lot to live up to now. Plethora, yeah, that's a big word for today. Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm so thrilled to be here because this is just my bag. Energy, connection, all of these things. So I can't wait to see where we go. And like you said, people dive in, questions, statements, comments, anything like that, because I always say we as individuals have only got our perspective, which can be quite amazing, people that have learned a lot, but everybody's perspective is valid. That's why I love it when people say, oh yeah, but what about?
yes. So do you want to go into, so Kathy, do you want to go into like the things we talked about as far as like definitions and what?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good place to start, definitions. And there are so many. Okay, I have actually made a note of them because I couldn't remember. I mean, my favorite one, which is sort of my one, is when you know, but you don't know how you know, which is basically, you just, something comes and you go, yeah, there it is, but you no real reason or understanding as to why it is. But the definitions are something like the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning, which is that but you don't know how you know. Young, he defined intuition as perception via the unconscious. And then you can have, when you have a keen sense of feely feels that feel feely, and you feel like you know the things that you don't know, but you do know because you're feeling them. So Buddhism, it's stated as a mental state between the universal mind and one's individual rational mind. And then when you're looking at intuition and what it is, it does offer a challenge for science, because obviously it's a pretty amorphous thing to try and measure, but it involves learned responses that are not the outcomes of deliberate processes. So in other words, we're not consciously thinking about that. Suddenly the information comes. And it's thought that as we become more aware, more spiritually raising our level of consciousness, well, more aware or more into spirituality, let's put it that way, and we raise our level of consciousness, we gain this knowledge or knowing spontaneously. It's almost like a side effect, and it's not a consequence of logical thought. And Plato, going back a long way, he said it's a pre-existing knowledge residing in the soul of eternity, which I thought was rather lovely.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's enough definitions. I think we get the gist of it.
Yeah, I thought we might start with, there's three areas I thought that would be really cool to dive into. So like the first area would be about the science. about what science says about intuition, a lot of where it comes from, and then going into some stories of intuition, some stories of people having intuition, and there were no clear pieces of information that they could have ever felt that would have caused them to have a cognitive response. Like it was pure intuition. The other one, the last one would be theories about intuition and the collective unconscious, which is that Jungian perspective that we're all tapped into this shared subconscious, which is just leads to this deep well of ancestral knowledge. So yeah, so let's start with the science part. And look, here's the thing, like everybody, the thing about intuition is like there's no hard facts about it. There's only theories and information, right? So nobody, one person is right or wrong. And I like to say that there is the big difference between being wow. Okay. So my brain needs to come back online. The difference.
Just gone into intuition now.
Okay, between being a skeptic and being a cynic. Okay, the big difference between being a skeptic and a cynic. Being a skeptic is really good, right? That says like, you know what? I have a belief based on my experiences or my learning or my knowledge or my teachings, but I'm open to hearing other ideas. I'm open to taking in more information. I'm going to be I'm going to want to have some real solid information to change my mind, but I'm open to it. Whereas a cynic is someone who has made a decision, has closed their mind, and basically shuts down any more information coming in. So, you know, be a skeptic. Being a skeptic is good.
I like being a skeptic, yes. And what I feel as well, along those same lines, is most of the talks that I do, I always start up that, and when I start, I say, I'm not attached to my truth, because here we may learn something new and my truth will change. And so that again is that I am a skeptic by training as a scientist, and I don't dive into things. But as you said, I'm not a cynic, but I am very open to change my truth. And I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. I'm presenting information. If it sits well, fantastic. If it doesn't, leave it behind.
Beautiful.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Okay. So do you want to go into the
You
science?
start, my darling.
You
You
want to
start if you want to. Yeah, you go where you want to go.
I'm just going to touch on a few things, and then what I love is you to just jump in if you have anything to add.
I'm just going to sit and listen, don't worry.
Yeah. So basically, what science knows about intuition right now is that it's a fast unconscious processing, right? This is how science sees it. It's the brain's ability to rapidly process vast amounts of information without your conscious awareness that it's happening. You know, a lot of times it's drawing from past experiences, learned patterns, subconscious cues. There's also the gut feeling, right? The enteric nervous system, what they call it, the second brain, which has millions of neurons that communicate with the brain, influencing everything from decision making to emotional responses. And I think that you might have had a talk with Shay Stewart recently about that gut feeling and about communication. Is there anything that you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, Shay is an absolute depth of knowledge on these subjects. And what she was talking about, we were just having a chat, and she was saying about the mitochondria and how the water within the mitochondria gets changed. And don't quote me on this, please refer to Shay for this because I was scribbling notes very quickly. But basically, there's a feeling that this water, this structured water, has something to do with our intuition. And the other part of looking at the body structure is the fascia. Now, the fascia, James Oshman, he's written a book called Energy, I think it was Energy Medicine, I can't remember. And he talks quite in depth there about how the fascia touches everything. And it again, it's very fluid. It's very energetic, if you like. And so we have all these things within our body that could be the mechanism for us to pick up the information. Because I'm always about energy and connection. And I truly feel that while there might be a scientific rationale behind some of the intuition, in that I think you've got a an example lower on about the firefighter's sixth sense. I read that and I thought, yeah, because what some people say or scientists will say about intuition is that there is a series of happenings that on their own wouldn't make anything, you wouldn't make a decision on. And they might be tiny, tiny micro things happening. But when you are a person of experience, and you're in the correct state of mind, because that's a really important thing. They know that heart coherence is a great tool to become intuitive, that you may see and connect these different things because we love patterns and the brain takes patterns on board. And so we recognize a pattern, but before we can consciously recognize it and go, oh, the floor is going to collapse because X, Y, and Z, we've acted on it. Get off the floor. He was talking about a building that was going to collapse. And so there is a rationale in that the brain loves to pick up information and form patterns and looks back. It's about looking at what's happened in the past and understanding that we're seeing it again. So therefore, there is a chance the same thing is going to happen. But it's also our ability to decide to act quickly on that information. So there you've got the sort of the physical side of it, I'm going to say. But then for me, we go to the energetic. And that's where we're picking up cues at an energy level, which is far beyond the nuts and bolts nervous level. And I truly believe that when we are in a state of, I'm going to say, flow, so we're not frightened or we're not in a high distress, maybe sometimes that might lead us to some thinking about, when people are in extreme peril. But what I mean is that we are in a place where we can hear our own intuition, in the sense that we're picking up an energy message and then we act on that energy message. So it's not a cognitive process as such. We don't think about it and it happens too quickly. And so that's where I'm saying that there are various ideas about whether it's the mitochondria, the water. I mean, the water in the body is so important. We know how much water is there and the different states of the water to pick up this information. But also there's a chance it's the fascia as well, because it's the thing that connects everything and it runs throughout the body. So that's a little bit into the Shay stuff, who would also say it much better than me.
No, I think you said it really well, actually. And some of the things that you had touched on also are some of the things that, from that scientific view, there's pattern recognition, right? The brain is constantly scanning for pattern recognition in the background. They found that people who are experienced professionals, like doctors, firefighters, chess masters, they rely heavily on intuition, so they can make faster and more accurate decisions beyond the idea of overanalyzing something, right? So making really fast decisions. And the subconscious is influencing all of that. It's funny. I learned I love Kyle Cease. I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's great. He is a comedian turned transformational speaker and trainer, and he's funny and he's awesome. He's where I got the quote, you're only afraid because you can measure what you could lose, but you don't see what you can
Mm.
gain. So he's wonderful. And he talked about a way to do meditation that I really loved because I felt like every time I slowed down to meditate was when my brain would be like, you need cat food. Um, did you pay that bill? Oh, you didn't respond to that email, right? And I would be sitting there trying to meditate while also trying not to forget all these things that my brain was firing at me. So when I heard his way of meditating, which was to sit down with a notepad and a pencil or pen, and then you go into your meditation, and as those things pop up, you just open your eyes and you write them down, which takes them out of here and onto the page and clears your mind. So that was how I got into my first actual real feeling of deep meditation was because I did it that way. So what happened that first time was tripped me out completely because I'm sitting there trying, quieting my mind, writing things down. And it felt like a little guy from way back here is like running to the front of my brain and was like, ta-da, and gave me the solution to something that I hadn't thought about in months. Like I wasn't sitting around wondering. It was like something that was so on a back burner, but my brain or something was still needling it and
Working it out. Yeah.
I was finally quiet enough that they were like, wait, get it, run, show it to her. So there's so much more than we understand or are connected with. And when we're constantly overanalyzing and overthinking, we can be blocking a lot of this information and support from ourselves. So it's not that you should feel bad about overthinking or overanalyzing or anything like that, but it is recognizing an opportunity to start shifting so that you have more access to the things that would be called intuition, that would be referred to maybe as inspiration or a download or whatever you want to call it.
I think it's interesting as well because thinking about it with intuition, is it precognition as well? Do we somehow, is it that we know somewhere along the line we suddenly go, I know what's going to happen? It's a very fine line between the two. And there's some scientists that they won't, they find it hard to distinguish between the two, and that they think that intuition is a type of precognition because you know what you need to do. But as I said, it's a bit of a blurred line about the you know, are they separate entities or are they together? And I think this is where, because it's such a non-definable thing, you can't put it in a box. Everything leaches over to the others. So you've got presentiment, you've got dreams, you've got precognition, you've got coincidence, you've got all of these different things. But I think they all come from the same sort of place, is that, as you said, when you quieten your mind and you can get into that place where you get the connection and you allow the freedom, you allow that information to come forward, I think we're all capable of it. And I know this is a bit of a random story, but I think it ties in here. Many moons ago, many moons ago now I'm talking, I went on a, oh God, brain's dead, psychic workshop. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, being psychic was nothing that was in my wheelhouse. And, I just went for the kick of it, basically. And a friend wanted to go. And long story short, it turned out there was some stuff that went on that I could pick up about other people that I'd never met before that was spot on, bang on. And so that really opened my eyes to the fact that even though I don't class myself as a psychic, I believe it's in all of us. And it's just a matter of training and a matter of going, going to that place, allowing yourself to go to that place and being open to it. And I just believe there's some people who are more inclined to that way, just like some people will be concert pianists and others like me will play chopsticks. It depends who you are and what you do. But yeah, all of this I think comes from that deep place, and that when we can get our body connected, because Philip Shepherd always talks about, you've got the head, the heart, and the gut, and he's always very much about the lower dantian as the source, and how to bring yourself down. And when he talks about breathing deeply, I love the way he says, don't breathe into, invite the breath into it, invite the breath into the lower abdomen. And that to me makes a lot of difference. But he talks about how there should be a continual connection from top to bottom and to the outside, obviously, to the world outside, the energy outside. And we have blocks within us, and there are various tools he uses to help remove them or help identify them. And I think it's when we can step into that place where we are coherent, we have great heart rate variability, brain and heart are coherent. That's when you can really start to step into really starting to work with your intuition. And I think there's somewhere a bit later on we'll talk about how there are sort of 5 steps to work to access your intuition.
You talked about the breath and being a connection, and the time that I learned that the most was when I was in my 20s and living in New York City. I was going to acting school, and I was always being yelled at, but I was doing a scene, and my acting teacher just in the middle of the scene started yelling at me, breathe into your gut, breathe into your gut. And, I just felt like I was up here, like I was stuck. I was trying to be in the moment. I was trying to connect and trying to access what I was working on in front of everyone. And I did this breath that went all the way down, and it was like some door flew open, and then everything just came back up and out. And I think that maybe there's something to that about intuition, when we're trying to puzzle something out, or, even when we get hit with a bit of intuition, maybe breathing all the way down into your lower gut to be sure that you're getting it all, right? Accessing all of it, especially since the gut is the second brain, right? So focusing into the body and allowing that to come out.
Yeah, it's a very powerful thing. And the other thing that got me thinking when you said about, let's talk about intuition, one of my favorite little mantras is intention, attention, no tension, which I'm pretty sure some of you might have heard of, but if you haven't, it basically means intention, know what you want. So you set a goal I want a new car, I want this, whatever. Attention, and for me, yes, you might do something to look for a new car or whatever, but that's not the main thing. The attention bit is giving gratitude as if you've already got it. So I always say you put you want a job, you go for a job interview, and it's a really special job and it'd be perfect. The moment that email or that letter comes to say you've got the job, that feeling of excitement, gratitude, joy, because that's a really high emotion. So when you add that high emotion to the electromagnetic frequency of what you are thinking about, I'm going to use it in this case, changing my car, because this relates to this story. And then the no tension is just let it go. Don't try and work out how it's going to happen. Oh, I need to go to the garage, or it's going to be a blue car, and it's going to be that, and it's going to be this. Yes, that can certainly work. But by doing something specific, what you're actually doing is you are denying all of the other possibilities that are out there, because the universe sort of hears you go, oh, you want that blue car, just that one of that particular, well, I'll do my best sort of thing. But if you just go, okay, I need a car, blah, 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 I'm leaving it up to the universe, and forget about it. Just spilt water all over everything. Forget about it. Or excuse me, folks, I might just have to get a towel because it's on top of my... No, it's not. It's yeah.
It did the very same thing, if anyone remembers before. So
just got a little bit excited then. I will just get to tell 2 seconds, children. Oh, lovely people. There we go. Thankfully, we're right by the airing cupboard and we have a toweled hound. So the intention bit is let it go. So briefly, okay, in 2017, whatever, I decided I wanted to upgrade my car. I write my intentions down every January. I literally put them in the drawer somewhere, don't look at them. I had a car that I'd just serviced, I'd put new tyres on, and it needed a gasket from the garage. So I had no intention of, when I went into that garage, of changing my car. I also, when I got in and the parts place was shut for 10 minutes, because I pass this garage nearly every day, every time I come into town, I could have come back, but something made me stay there. I got talking to the salesman who, as I always say, looked about 12. And he was, oh, you know, what can you do? And I just asked him what was the value of my car. He came out and had a look. I said, what's on the forecourt? He showed me this upgrade model, automatic, leather seats, God knows what else. They just knocked 7,000 quid off it because they needed, it was an older model and it had been used as a demonstrator and they wanted it off the forecourt. Upshot was I bought that car. Now, was that intuition that that was the day I actually went into that garage? And even though the lady was not behind the parts place and I had to wait, was that intuition that kept me there? I don't know. But because we started talking about this, you know, Christine said, let's talk about intuition. My brain started going off in all sorts of directions. And I just wondered, was it? Was it chance? Was it intention? Did the intention do it? Is it intuition that that was the right time to go in there? So I think there's lots we don't know about it, but I do feel it's that openness to allow that is the power behind it. Talk amongst yourself while I wipe my desk, okay?
Well,
I'll get electrocuted.
I have a story of intuition that it's just really random because people talk about stories of like there's a story about a firefighter who ordered everybody out of a burning house, though there was no real there was nothing that they could see that would suggest that they were in any danger. And moments later, the floor collapsed because there was a fire burning in the basement as well that they didn't know about. So that's a big intuition, right? Like it's not like that,
Yeah.
okay? But it was such a clear moment of intuition is why it's so memorable for me. I was driving Mulholland Highway to dropping my daughter off at school when she was in high school. And I was driving back, and it's a very curvy road, right? I had driven that road a million times, so I probably go a little faster than I should on that road. And I just had almost like a shouting in my mind. I had a vision of my grandfather who passed away when I was 11 and slow down. And I just immediately slowed down. And within 5 seconds, I came around a curve and there was a cop sitting there with his radar gun. I had never, ever, there was never a speed trap on that road that I had ever. Now, it seems like a frivolous use of intuition, right?
Yeah.
I don't
not when you get
know.
fined.
Maybe he was not having a good day and would have been really mean. I don't know. But the thing is that it was such a clear moment of intuition because I was just in my head. I had dropped my daughter off, thinking about what I need to do when I get home. And it just hit me. So, and the fact that it was like seeing my grandfather's face in my mind and then hearing that so clearly. So,
I was just going to say, thank you, Grandad. Yeah.
yeah, it was like, wow, that's so freaky.
It's true. I want to know from anybody. I'm going to ask a question now because I had a very similar thing. I was driving up by the Loch Ness, the famous Loch Ness, but I was on the side that's not used so much, and it's a beautiful road that's slightly undulating, so it's straight, but you can't see too far ahead. And I was just going along, and I swear to God, as I was coming over the top, I thought, and there was a car overtaking, heading straight for me. I really understand what you're saying there, because it was so clear. I thought there's going to be a car, and there it was. So yeah. So who else has had something? Let's open
Michelle?
the floor up.
Go ahead, unmute yourself.
I had one very intense for me. Where I live, there's a big hill up and out of our, like, off of our dirt road, that's a side road down to the main highway. And I was just getting going and kind of fiddling around, not paying attention. And it's a small country road. And as I was reaching the crest, you can't see over it. Something yelled at me, and it cussed at me, and it said, "Stop and effing pay attention. Look up." Sure enough, here was a fire truck coming over with lights on in my lane, because this is a very small country road. And I literally would have went head on with this giant fire truck if I hadn't got that. And it really affected me deeply. I started bawling after we passed each other, because I was like, wow, where did that information come from? And it was a very profound moment. So I don't know why it's a car thing, but yeah, I think because maybe it is so, integral that cars, we can be so hurt so quickly. But
Yeah,
I have a question for you, Kathy. Is I've always felt like my intuition was, it was okay. It's not super, super strong, but it's there. But I feel like I can hear other people's animals more clearly than I hear my own. And I feel like that's kind of common, but I wondered if you could just maybe, elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my immediate thought is our animals are so close to us, okay, that we cannot help but have feelings associated with them. Whereas when we are working with somebody else's animal or another person, we are that one step removed. And I just think it takes a lot of practice and training to be able to be, I'm going to say, step back from our own. I truly, because I know when I was being taught to do some of the energy medicine, the energy work that I do, that we were absolutely told, don't try and work on your own family or your own animals, always get someone else to work on them, because we are so integrally tied to them. And I think it depends what you're doing. I personally feel, because of the way I work, I can do it because I step back so far. I'm not sort of looking at what's going on or trying to discern or work out anything. I'm just like, right, here's the energy. That's it. I don't know. But yeah, I feel that might be the thing. And I just think it would be practice. And that you being really aware of taking that extra step back when it's your own, in that, okay, you're out there, I'm here, and we are integrally, because you become so enmeshed energetically with them, because you know them so well, they know you, react to each other's energy, even though you don't know you're doing it. So I think that might be the one little thing that might change that, is to have the practice and then just say, okay, I'm going to treat you as my next door neighbor's horse, dog, cat, whatever.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Cool.
Michelle.
Like a Michelle day. Hi.
Oh.
So my question sort of leans into the other side, which is, we've talked a lot about the science of it. We've talked a lot about the pattern recognition and how our brains work and our subconscious. And I know there's a lot more detail, and we could go into that forever. My question is more a spiritual one, because I feel like there's a very big difference for me with like my intuition and when I'm getting guidance that is not coming from my brain. Like, I had an experience with a friend who, we were in something that was absolutely not pleasant, and no one was telling me actually what was happening. And the whole thing was a shitty circumstance. That's not the point. The point is that I heard something, and not heard like, oh, I can hear you right now, but a thought went across my radar screen that was not me. And I know it because I went, what? I'm sorry, what happened now? And it repeated the information. And I was like, you shut up. And it was like, I had been asking for a week straight, what is going on? what is happening right now? Why is this happening? Why is nobody telling me what's happening? It was a really weird. Anyway, so I guess I kind of wanted to kick that ball over and say, how do we account for what could or might be angels or a spirit team, or, the co-creation that I firmly believe we do in this universe? Like, can you speak a little bit on that?
Christine, do you want to kick off?
Well, I'll hit it and then you hit it, Kathy. Okay. So,
Hey, baby.
all right. So all I would say is that I am a firm believer in both things being true, in that our brains are incredible computers. They're taking in tiny bits of information as well as big pieces of information and patterns constantly. And so when something might happen that is familiar, there is a deep wisdom there that's drawing on that. But also, I think that can also create a tuning fork. All of that brain information also can create a tuning fork that needs that maybe little bit of touch from the collective unconscious to pull it all together into that light bulb moment. Right? So I think that what you're describing sounds like maybe there was a bit of both going on, of looking at past patterns, looking at the bigger picture of what your other experiences were, and then adding in whether you want to call it, spirit guides or a download or intuition. It all comes together and you get that light bulb moment and it hits you.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I really do. I mean, for me, I always truly believe that all the information is in the field, and the field is the matrix that connects the innermost protein of a proton of us to the furthest most galaxy we have yet to discover. And everything is contained, all the information, the energy is contained within the field. And I think it's just that some moments then we link in a particular way. So when you had that voice come across you and then it came again, it's, for me, that is you connecting to that field. And as I said, when you put intention out, you're putting an electromagnetic frequency out that the universe wants to match. So when you sit in that place and that information comes, it's your connection. People say to me, can I help them to connect? And I totally appreciate where that comes from. You cannot not be connected. All that we have is a blockage of connection, or a dullness of connection, and not dull being dull, but sort of it's not clear. And so that's what a lot of my work is about, is helping people get that clarity of connection, so that when you're in a situation where you're not quite sure where to go, if you can bring yourself down physically so that you're not in a heightened state, which obviously makes you jingle and jangle and you're in a sympathetic nervous system, but come back into parasympathetic and literally accept that the answer is there. You only have to ask. Terry Keebler, she's amazing at this, because she'll go to bed asking a question, and in the morning, overnight, she will get the answer, and in the morning she has got the answer. The answer will come to her. And I truly believe this is possible. For me, I believe when the Stone Age people were here, whatever they were, and I mean, there's a lot of argument that they could have been more advanced that's a debatable word at the moment, than us. But all of the information to make a nuclear bomb, a nuclear submarine, get to the moon, everything was in the field. But we, as a sentient being, weren't ready to access it. I think it was Leonardo da Vinci that he drew submarines and stuff way beyond his years, way beyond his time era. He was tapping into that, into what you called, Christine, the collective unconscious. And that's where ideas come from. That's where, how do we suddenly go, oh yeah, I know what I need to do. It's there. It's us linking to that field through our energy. We're connecting there, and then that's coming to us as an idea, or in this case for Michelle, a words going across her mind. And so for me, absolutely what you said, Christine, about the patterning, the physical side, but it's almost stronger in some ways for me that it's the connection to the energetic field.
And it being the same place where creativity shows up, where the artist's muse exists, right? That we bring things into the world through that collective unconscious, that energy. So we're going to go till probably 10:15. So we have a little less than half an hour. So Karen, I'm going to get to everybody. So unmute yourself and share away.
Lay it on us.
You're still muted. Let me see. Just unmute. There you
How
go.
about now?
You're good.
We good? Okay. You were just asking about sharing bits of intuition. I live in an area that's just infested with white-tailed deer. They're everywhere. In the evening, you're almost always going to see them somewhere along the road. And I very distinctly get this warning to watch out for them on the days when one is going to bolt in front of me. It's the wildest thing. I see them nearly every evening if I'm out driving, off in the distance, in the side, nowhere at risk, nowhere close. But when I get that distinct feeling, it always happens that one pops out and I have to hit the brakes. And it's always in a way that's safe for both of us. Like I get the warning and there they emerge and I respond and we all go about our merry way safely. One day I had that vibe as I was leaving my house. And so I was extra careful, didn't see any deer, got to my destination, did what I needed to do, came home, turned into my little subdivision where, I mean, my house is, yards away from that turn. And just as I said to myself, vibe didn't work tonight, there come 3 deer busting out across the tiny little gravel road that I live in from my neighbor's yard.
Oh my
And,
God.
I was doing like 10 miles an hour or something, but it just cracked me up because it always happens out on the paved roads where I'm driving faster, never quite right at home. And just when I realized, the vibe didn't mean anything. Oh, but it did.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And what I love is the way that you absolutely accept that. That's
Oh, I
information
do.
to you.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely, without question. And my kids know whenever I have that little vibe, I'm like, oh, I got to watch for deer tonight. And they've been in the car and they're like, what are you talking about, Mom? And I've explained, I just had a funny feeling that I need to look out for deer. And they're like, oh, whatever. And they roll their eyes. And sure enough, we'll be on
the
our
deer
way down
jumps
the road.
out. Yeah.
Yep. And they're like, oh my gosh. Oh, okay. And now my 2 older kids are driving. And now I tell them, like, you get the vibe, watch out, pay attention because it's there to help
The
you.
vibe.
I love that.
I love
Well
these
done.
stories.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Carrie.
Sure.
Hello. Mine is a story from before I really kind of understood about intuition and really had any thoughts about it. And it's a bit of a sad story, really, because my first horse got diagnosed with a condition that she needed surgery for, and went through the thought process, decided that surgery was the best option. And I kept saying to people, I'm not worried about the surgery, it's the anaesthetic that worries me. But it's a general thing that everyone has that little worry, but it's fine for most people. And so I kept saying, it's the anaesthetic that worries me, but she'll be fine. And she wasn't. She had a reaction to the anaesthetic. And I lost her. And it's only looking back that I think something was, if I ever got that feeling again, I wouldn't go ahead with the surgery. My second horse actually got diagnosed with the same condition, and her only treatment option was surgery if I wanted to be able to keep riding. And although having lost one horse to an anaesthetic, I was so scared about doing it, I realized I didn't have that same feeling. And she came through the anesthetic absolutely fine. So yeah, I now will listen more. If something is niggling at me, I'll definitely listen.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson, but
Yeah.
you know the
And
feeling.
and I had to kind of work through that thing of not beating myself up, because it's like, oh, something was telling me, but it's like I didn't know at the time
Don't know.
that was a message. So but yeah, so that was my first real sort of experience of intuition.
Your foray into intuition. You know, one of the things that stands out to me, Carrie, though, is you know, losing anything we love is devastating. It's absolutely devastating. But I would say if the universe wanted to show you that you had intuition and to trust yourself, and your horse's life was coming, its time here was coming to an end anyway.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was such a beautiful opportunity to say, trust yourself, Carrie, because if you had not gone with the surgery, you would have a million other thoughts like, should I have done the surgery? Now look at, you know, like this was so clear for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Feels like a part of a gift there was that.
Yeah, definitely. She definitely gave me lots of gifts.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Didn't mean to bring the mood down of this whole evening.
Not.
Not at all. Bridget.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
I was thinking about how when I was a very, very young child, intuition just felt so natural and like so factual. And I remember being in rooms with adults where they would be talking about something or discussing something or maybe even fighting about something. And I would just spit something out. Like, try this or do this or you should do this or whatever. And like I can remember faces looking at me like, who is this little kid? And as I got older, I would still do that. And it became the first time I had a label of like being a know-it-all. I felt that pull back. And around the age of 15, I had a friend whose father I adored. And you know, I would like wish he would be my dad. Like he was just like this greatest dad. And the first time he said something like that to me, like, how do you know all this? How do you know, it was the first time I felt myself like really pull back. And then because of that, I started second guessing the things that would come in, what I should share, what I shouldn't share. And it really like changed so many trajectories for me in how I started listening to my own self. So I was just wondering what you guys have for cultivating that in younger people and, you know, letting that stay there. I mean, it's been little things that you're talking about, like the cars and stuff like that. I don't know how to explain it, but that's everyday life for me. Go here, do this, like there's like this constant all the time. Charlie will know when like I can want to go on a vacation, I can book the airline tickets, I can pick the hotel, and I will be saying in my head, I know I'm not going. That is just not going to happen. I'm never going to be. I just know. And it's so, but I have realized that I've silenced all of that so much because I don't want to be seen certain ways. when things will come up that way. And I just wondered if that happens for you guys or how that translates now for you as adults.
Well, I just quickly say, so Christine will have a deeper insight, but for me, not shutting it down with children is just what you said, is not to label them so that you got labeled as the know-it-all. Oh, how do you know? So instead, if I was around a child who was bringing forward these things, my energy would be one of exploration. Would go, oh my goodness, okay, tell me more, tell me, of interest, of bringing it out of them, because I would really want to know as well. It wouldn't be just like, no, I'm cultivation. It says, tell me, come on. So I think for me that would be the main thing, would be, and it's a pie in the sky thing, because obviously other people wouldn't, they'd want to shut them down, but anybody that was in my environment that was in that way, that's whether they were a child or older, it would be one of nurturing, of this is really cool, and also one of explanation that this is normal, natural, because this is what we see in children, don't we, that they have all of these gifts and then they get shut down because the adults don't know what it is, and don't make yourself look different, you've got to conform, don't be so stupid, blah 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 blah. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
I think I scared some adults when I was little.
I bet
Like
you
I
did.
I mean, I scare people now, so I can only imagine what it was like when I was 5, going, you know what you should do.
Precocious child.
I remember being very young and people going, well, aren't you a little old soul? Because I just
weren't they right? Oh, weren't they right?
You know, I was talking about this with my daughter, and I think one of the things that starts to shut that door, or that sense for children of the awe and the connection to the universe, is labeling things, is that we go into the materialistic science of things. And there's the beauty of a flower, let's say, like there's a million different kinds of flowers now, but then we tell them it's a flower, and then we tell them it's green because of photosynthesis, and because, or because of chloroform, and because this is how it eats, and we tell them all of the information about a flower, and we take all the magic out of the flower. But I think that you can do both. I think that you can say, this is what we've learned, but there's so much we don't know, right? So let me tell you what we've learned, or what we believe right now. But flowers are amazing. Keeping that little bit of opening of possibility and awe, so that things don't just get put in boxes and then put away.
That's great advice.
Thanks, Bridget, as always. Lucy?
Hi, thank you. I've just kind of got a couple of, I guess, thoughts and a question. And one, going back to the kind of the collective consciousness, or the energy field that is always there. There's this thing that my husband told me the other day, and he would never describe himself as woo. He would say he was not that, and he is, considerably more material, not materialistic at all, but material than I think I probably am. But we were talking about, just in terms of that, Elizabeth Gilbert and her book Big Magic, it's fantastic kind of reference for that, and how the stories are there, or the ideas are there, and the coincidence, if we call it that, if we use that word, of them landing simultaneously, all the developments that have happened in completely disconnected parts of the world before there was mass communication at the same time, that kind of thing. But that came up, and he said that when he was a boy in England, I grew up in Australia, so don't remember this, but when he was a boy in the UK, everyone used to get their milk delivered in the glass bottle with the foil top. We still do, remarkably. I don't know how that happens, but we still get that. We have our local milkman. But everyone got that, and it was just routine, day after day after day. And then one day they woke up, and swallows had pecked holes. They'd worked out they could drink the milk, but they hadn't just done it in one area. They'd done it on the same day across the whole of the UK and possibly wide. It was reported. It was kind of reported quite widely because it was this extraordinary phenomena that on the same day, all over the country, everyone's milk had been pecked at by birds overnight, and they think swallows overnight. And possibly it was widespread, possibly it was in Europe as well. But just that thing that it's not just humans, that there is a kind of we are in communication and conversation with the energy is all living things, and possibly living things that we don't regard as sentient as well.
Mm-hmm.
Our capacity to understand sentience is still limited by our current brain capacity and understanding. But anyway, I just thought that was quite a nice story of collective consciousness. And then I had a kind of a question about intuition. It's really amazing hearing people's stories and experiences and intuitive experiences. I think a question that I have for myself is, what I'm conscious of is that I can, depending on my nervous system state and how I am managing that, sometimes what I interpret as an intuition is a catastrophizing fear anticipation. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes what I get is a strong sense that something might happen.
And does
but
it?
It's no. But it comes from an anticipated fear. And so I think there's something how we can distinguish, how I can distinguish. I guess my question is, and it's probably too big a question to ask 10 minutes before the end of the conversation, but maybe it's for another day, but how our nervous systems really interact with intuition. And I know, Kathy, I think it was you who talked about, I can't actually, it might have been Christine, but talked about the need to be in the parasympathetic rather than sympathetic, because the sympathetic can be very loud in ways. But sometimes I've had a fear of flying for a large part of my life, which I've worked on a lot and really kind of managed to overcome. And my big, actually, the most effective way to overcome it was I imagined I was an astronaut, and actually my flight was nothing compared to what it was like when I was in the rocket ship going through the atmosphere. And it was incredibly effective. Like, it just did something. But I would imagine there were times when I cancelled flights because I was sure that plane was going to crash, and it didn't. And I know it was a phobic response that felt like really strong information.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point, and I would, if that's okay, Christine, address that. I just want to go back to the first bit where you said about all of the birds all at once. It seemed like they all knew. This has been shown. Rupert Sheldrake talks about it, and I think I've mentioned it in one of my talks, where when they are creating new crystals to be used in engineering, and manufacturing, sometimes they create the solution and then they find it really hard to get the crystals to come out of solution to actually form the crystal that they need to go to manufacture whatever they're going to manufacture. And what's happened, and this has happened on several occasions, is that they're working on the same thing all around the world. When one lab, the crystals start crystallizing, they all do all around the world. And likewise, the opposite will happen, that if they, for some reason, those crystals start coming back into solution, out of crystallizing and back into solution, the same happens all around the world. And it is the morphic field, the morphic resonance that's within the energetic and the magnetic field of the earth. And so totally what you're saying, but that's on a, as you said, a non-sentient, but are they non-sentient? That shows it on a different level. So I think with fear and intuition, it's such a good question, because you can feel a fear of something and then you can start thinking, well, is that my intuition telling me that I shouldn't actually do that, or is it fear? And I think fear, it thrives in busyness. Intuition is much more like a pulling energy. It's a much calmer energy. So it feels like you're being drawn to your best interest. It's a very calm, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. Even if it is a case where you may need to take a risk, say in business, that you might have to invest some money, but you feel this, it's almost an excitement about doing it, and there's hope, and it's like an inner knowing. But where fear is a very confused energy, and it's a very high energy and anxious and hard. And so I think that fear dictates a decision that makes us feel relieved, as though we've survived a threat, whereas intuition points us in a direction that makes us feel more comfortable. So that's just a maybe an overview that might be useful, when you're next in that situation, is what is the feel in your body? Is it one of, or is it one of, okay, I've got the message, that's fine, I'm not getting on that plane? And there's a totally different emotional reaction there.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I would, wow, that was really good, Kathy. That was great. Like, I would piggyback on that a little bit with the idea that, this is something that we all struggle with around intuition, which is this intuition I'm sensing, or is this fear, or is this being over analytical about something? Is it anxiety around making a decision? And so I think that one thing that you can ask yourself is this feeling that I'm having familiar? Is this a familiar feeling? Like, does this follow a personal pattern of mine? And I'm going to add in what Kathy said. Does it feel frenetic? Is the energy anxious and kind of feel like it makes me feel more confused, not clearer?
Yeah.
And when Kathy and I were talking about having this talk, we were trying to figure out, how do we describe the feeling of getting intuition? And we both said the thing about intuition is that when you get intuition, it feels like it creates a clearing out of everything else. Like, everything else goes into the background. And the intuition part, the message, is just very clear, and it hits in a way that's not just in the head, right? It's almost like it settles into the body too. And when you get that, there's not a lot of confusion. Now, I know people who are overly analytical that can ruin a really good intuition moment, right? Because they take it and then they pull on it and they poke it and they overthink it and they project stories onto it, and then they ask all their friends, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? They have a whole committee that they have. And then by the end, it's worthless, right? The intuition is for you. It's not for other people. It's for you because it's meant to go through your personal filter, through the way that your mind and your experiences are stacked. This is going to resonate for you. So be very careful who you start asking questions about your intuition. And if you feel like, wow, I'm afraid of getting on this plane, it's a really succinct example, right? I have a fear of flying. So therefore, that fear is going to want to tap into all aspects of my brain. And it's going to want to tap into the idea of intuition and go, oh, Lucy, this is intuition. This isn't your fear talking, right? That moment of anxiety that you just got, you know what that was? It wasn't anxiety. That was intuition. So you better go cancel those flights. But it feels exactly similar to all the other times that you have been afraid to fly, right? So, the only way that you really start to develop that intuition is to start playing with it in this way, right? And going, okay, well, I really think that this is more fear. And so let's see if I can work on that fear. Let me try to work on my nervous system and bring my nervous system down. Let me meditate and let me, like Kathy said, let me try Terry Giebler's approach and go to bed with the idea of asking the question and see what I wake up with, right? And if you're wrong, you're wrong. Who cares? Who cares, right? But starting to trust in yourself is what's going to really build that intuition. Now, the flip side is that we see people who are overly invested in intuition. They're overly invested in the supernatural or the woo or this. And the reason why I say overly is because it can be a way to bypass your work. It can it can be a way to bypass the very real things that you are coping with and dealing with in this life. We don't need to go into past lives, baby. We got enough to work with right here and right now.
Sorry.
And I can't tell you how many people I have had come and want to work on past lives or, tap into something that is outside of themselves when so clearly they have work that they could do in this life before we're ready to start looking into, what happened, in 3 lifetimes ago. So just really be aware of, am I being pulled to that? Do I like to go into that? Does that feel more interesting and exciting to do than my work? Because maybe you can do both at the same time. Maybe that would help, but don't let that bypass you from the very real things that you can do now.
That's really good. I know we're getting near time. I just very quickly on that last note, because I work with somebody where we do tend to go back, but that we only go back once. I have sat here in the present and worked out exactly what is going on now. It's about finding where it is in your body. It's about discovering what that emotion is. It's everything gets worked on first, here, now, and relieved. And then it might be, okay, we've released it now. Let's just see, there might be a prior cause, but that's not the initial thing. You work on here and now of clearing it here and now, because that's what matters. And yeah, then you might find where the reason was it came from, but you've got to do the work now, because otherwise what's the point going back there? We're here. The other thing is, honey, I've got a very quick thing about developing intuition. Do you want me to quickly go through that?
Yes, please.
So there are 5 steps, and what we've spoken about here is actually perfect because it can be random. The start of our journey into intuition can be random, so that we think, oh God, did that actually happen? Not sure. But anytime you feel, well, I think that might have been, just take note. And remember, there's no right nor wrong, just as Christine said. But so it can be random. You wonder if it's intuition. You want it to be more dependable. It can be a bit vague. You don't know what it means. You're not sure if you're making it up. That's the beginning. And it's those being aware of those little things that are happening. That's the start of you recognizing your intuition. And then the next step too is about becoming consistent. So when we do this, we want to be able to recognize the intuition, because you're understanding the difference between your thinking mind and your intuition mind, the mind that is finding these answers at a different level. And again, it might still be random, but you can now begin to recognize it more and begin to sit in and go, no, there's a commonality. There's a common feel in my body. When I get that thought, I get that, just as Christine said, that expansiveness, that clearing, that, oh God, okay, I can see now. So you begin to recognize the characteristics of it. You recognize the difference between if you're thinking about something or if it's intuition. And you're beginning to get a good practice of intuition. So once you go into consistency, then you want it to be reliable. In other words, that it'll give you the information that you want and it'll show up when you want it. So this is when you apply a technique where you can make your intuition appear when you want it to. And again, this all takes practice, but you've got to start recognizing your intuition. You've got to start trusting it, and then you can start asking for it. So you can ask for your intuition on command. It's more targeted. So you can say, Okay, just supposing you're going to take that, you're offered a trip. And I think a lot of people might do this, that you're offered an opportunity to do something you're not quite sure. And one of the what you call the exercise you can do is, how do you feel if you were allowed to do it? You can do that trip. And how do you feel if someone said, no, you can't? And that can be the start of training, because you're feeling within your body the, yes, I definitely want to do that, or no, I don't. So that can be a good little exercise to use. And you start to realize then, when you've used that intuition, you get the results and you start to see a consistency in that. And then it's number 4 is accuracy. So you want your intuition to be accurate, and help you get more information and more detail. So it's when you are in that place that you can receive the information that you can trust, and you can then start to ask for detail. And you might start to receive it in multiple ways, that it's not just that one feel, but you know what it's like, we call it synchronicity, but something else could happen over there and something else can happen over there, and then you add those 3 together and you get a really strong answer of, yes, this is what I should be doing. And you learn to sort of ask more questions and ask more for more detail, and the exercises become faster because you're practicing all the time, and you get to know to ask really pertinent questions. And the last one is actionable. And so this is when you can make your intuition happen on command, and it's reliable. So when you know you've got a decision to make, you can ask your I can't speak, your intuition, and you can get all of the information in lots of ways. And you want to be able to train yourself as well. We were saying about being in a parasympathetic is an easier place to be, but it's a way again of practicing that if you're in a stressful situation, you can then even go to use your intuition in that situation. Again, it's a gradual process of you recognizing, using, trusting. So you can almost use it unconsciously, and you can use it when you're faced with significant life issues, when you've got to make a big decision, and it gives you information on how to take action. So you keep doing this and you try and do those 5 steps, it can leave you as the master of your intuition, in the sense that it is a tool that you can use every day. That was the short version.
Thank you. And listen, here, I'm going to have Kathy send that to me, and we're going to share that on the Facebook page. I'm going to share how you can get connected with Kathy. Kathy does mentoring. Kathy does energy work. She has amazing retreats. She's having a retreat with Denise Byron next month, right?
And we're having a retreat as well in Bali next January. Just dropping it out there, folks.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I will put show notes, and I'm going to put what Kathy shared, some of the people we talked about, books we talked about. If you aren't in our private Facebook group, please reach out so I can add you. It's First Fridays. I sent it a link in the email. And yeah, I feel like there was more I was supposed to say. Oh,
yes. Yeah.
one last thing. Okay, so next month in April, we're going to have a little bit different First Fridays than we normally do, because we're going to have a special guest again, but we're going to talk about the telepathy tapes. Now, if you guys have not listened to the podcast called The Telepathy Tapes, you're welcome. Kai Dickens does a podcast that delves into all things telepathy. And though telepathy has been held in such an incredibly woo-woo, new age, crazy place for so long by science, you will see the amazing real scientists who have been studying this. And the fact that this has been going for so long in experiments that so prove that this is true, and that science has just been sidelining this to the degree that they try to silence people through taking their medical licenses and things like that. Not like this is not a conspiracy theory thing. This is just, believe me, this is just talking about how change scares people. And, we all can be susceptible to fear of change. But the truth is coming out now, and interesting things are coming out now, and you can bring your inner skeptic. But I highly suggest listening to the Telepathy Tapes podcast. And so I'm going to have Shay Stewart as my guest next month, who is a cranial sacral, what do you call that? Therapist, cranial sacral therapist. And she was the person that first shared the telepathy tapes on social media and talked about them. And her and Kathy had such a deep conversation about this, and she has studied this ad nauseum. I mean, she is like a well of knowledge and information. So it's going to be a really cool gathering. So I hope you guys can join me and Shay next month. I am so grateful to you, Kathy. I mean,
thank you, sweetheart. You know how much I enjoy this. I'm so grateful to have been asked because it's my joy. Absolute joy. And thank you everyone that's turned up and for the lovely comments and everything. And I see a lot of them that we could go on a lot longer, and there's instinct and intuition, and there's so many other topics we could cover. Maybe we'll do it again one day.
And also, that's why we have the Facebook group, and Kathy's in there. So if there's anything that you wanted to ask or share on here, maybe post it on the group, and then, we can add to it later. Does that make sense? That sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
That sounds really good.
All right, good.
All
right. Well, thank you, everybody. And
thank you. Oh,
have
it's
a
so
great
lovely
one.
to see so many faces. Yo!
We'll see you next time. The recording will be on the Facebook group, and I'll try to get it out in the email. It's much easier for me to put it on the Facebook group, so it usually goes there first. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye, everyone.